All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig in a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Check out Pig in a Pickle. Two locations. They're in Emeryville and they're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you can find them Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. All right, let's talk a little 49ers. Leading into the draft, 49ers hosting free agent wide receiver Chris Conley. They're doing their homework on the veteran free agent receivers. Tom Pelissero reported that Laquan Treadwell visited the team, and that was earlier this week. And then ESPN's Field Yates reported that Treadwell was there and Chris Conley, the veteran wide receiver. And Kansas City drafted Conley in the third round out of Georgia in 2015. He's a big receiver, 6'3", 205 pounds, huge hands. I mean, this guy had 11-inch hands or whatever it was, 10-inch hands in college. Great, not great numbers in college, I should say, but as far as his measurables coming out, he ran 4.35 in the 40. He had a 1.52 10-yard split, so he's always had major athleticism. 45-inch vert. I mean, that right there is unbelievable. So 4.35 with 45-inch vert, three-cone drill of 706, 18 bench press reps. But he's a veteran now, and he's played around the league. He's 6'2", 213 pounds is what he was listed at coming out of college, and he's now 30. And he started last year with the Texans, and they released him in October, and he signed with Kansas City, and was on their practice squad, and then was claimed by the Titans in October. He's caught 217 passes in his NFL career for 2,853 yards and 15 touchdowns. 109 games in the NFL, 63 of them starts, 8 seasons. Kansas City, Jacksonville, Texans, and the Titans. Interesting that they would work him out. I think in both cases here, they're looking for, a big veteran receiver who can be a camp body, and they know they're going to have a young receiving core, right? I mean, obviously, or I should say, a young player coming in. So you got Debo and Ayuk, and you got Jawan Jennings and Danny Gray and Ray McLeod. So you got the young Danny Gray and really veteran guys after that. And they have Tay Martin, who'll be a second-year guy. I do expect them to bring in a couple rookie receivers, though, and why not balance it out with a couple veterans that you think can compete this summer for a roster spot. So Treadwell was a 5-star high school recruit who, went to Ole Miss and just hasn't been able to make it in the NFL. Conley, came out of a run-heavy scheme. If you go back to Georgia runs the ball. This is a guy who, the one thing that's really nice about Conley, he's got unbelievable acceleration. And he's got a natural feel for wide receivers. He's got big hands, strong hands, great body control. He can make some tough, really contested catches. If you looked at his college numbers, they weren't that great. But Georgia runs the ball a ton, and that's really what that was about. But when you look at him in the NFL, he's a tall receiver who, even though he has a blazing 40 time, he doesn't necessarily play to that speed. He's got good acceleration, though, to separate. But you don't see him with just these huge downfield plays. But he's definitely a big receiver who's very athletic. He's got a natural feel, great hand strength, great body control. He's really lean, and just very smooth. Smooth in his route running for sure. He definitely, you can use this guy on the deep ball. He can go down the field. I like him in the slot a little bit on those corner routes. The guy catches it with his hands. He'll pluck it out of the air. And, I like him on some of the in-breaking routes as far as his drive across the middle. He doesn't, the one thing about the Niner receivers is none of them play with looking around for defenders. And it's like, if you play that way, and there's lots of receivers in the league that do, I don't know that you'd fit in that well. They run their routes in the middle of the field with great courageousness. And the one thing about Conley, he does too. And he, he'll run those in-breaking routes, and he won't be looking around going, who's going to blow me up. So in that regard, I think he'd really fit well. As far as would he have a chance to make the team, that's hard to say because, Debo's making it, Ayuk's making it. Now the other thing that could be thought here is, are the 49ers looking to maybe trade Brandon Ayuk on draft day? And there's been a lot of rumor of that. And when you look at guys like Laquan Treadwell and Chris Conley, it makes you think, are they replacements for an Ayuk if Ayuk's traded for a high draft pick? When I say a high draft pick, I think Brandon Ayuk would get you a first-round pick. I don't know that the Niners want to make that move, but if they did, then Laquan Treadwell or Chris Conley makes sense as a replacement for Brandon Ayuk. But let's just say, for the sake of conversation, that Ayuk's there and Debo's there and Jennings is there. Danny Gray's your deep speed. Ray McLeod's your return guy. Tay Martin is a really nice young receiver. If you had a receiver like Treadwell or Conley in there, that's a very competitive position. I do expect them to have at least one or two young receivers coming out of this draft. So, I mean, that could be a very, very competitive situation where you've got, 5 guys competing for maybe one roster spot. Maybe not even. So interesting, though, because he's an athletic guy. If it'd be one thing if Conley was, had no talent. This guy's got major talent. I mean, that's why he's been on, 4 or 5 teams, because somebody's always willing to give a guy like this a chance. He's 6'3". He's got great ability to separate, great athleticism, and he's got some natural receiving skills. But it also hasn't happened for him in any one particular spot. But I do like his talent a lot. So if you could get a guy like Chris Conley, now, to me, it does suggest that maybe somebody's moving. Because why would a guy like Chris Conley want to play for the Niners if, and walk into this receiver room? You're not beating out Debo. You're not beating out Ayuk. Danny Gray's the deep speed. Ray McLeod coming off a terrific year. So maybe you're gonna compete with Juwan Jennings for a spot. So does that mean they're moving Jennings? Does that mean they're moving Ayuk? The fact that they're looking at these veteran receivers like Laquan Treadwell and Chris Conley, it could. It absolutely could mean that. Or it could just mean that they're looking for, some talented quality depth in camp this summer. And, man, Conley and Treadwell would definitely qualify there. Those are 2 guys that, if you're bringing those guys in as quality depth, that's a hell of a receiving core. So just something to look for. Does the, kicking tires on Treadwell and Conley tell you that the Niners are real interested? Or is it just that time of the year and Treadwell was a 5-star high school recruit and maybe somebody really liked him in the draft because he went in round 1, and maybe Chris Conley was some Niner scouts said, hey, you know what? We really like this guy in the way he moves, and then now he's free. Bring him in. Let's take a look, see what he's got. So you never know. Could be nothing, could be something, could be a trade on the horizon, could be quality camp depth. But Chris Conley looked at by the 49ers, and it'll be interesting to see if they wind up picking up or actually signing one of these veteran receivers going into training camp. All right, hope you enjoyed the Conley 49er video. Thank you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. Check out Pig in a Pickle in Emeryville and Corte Madera. And once again, thanks for checking us out on the Krug Show right here on YouTube.